Mr. Bean responded humorously to Diana, but refused to smile at Camilla. During a charity event in 1984, Diana met Rowan Atkinson for the first time. She immediately smiled and pointed at him, saying, "You." Rowan Atkinson was surprised by Diana's friendliness and quickly responded with a little joke in the style of Mr. Bean. In that moment, there was no difference in status between them, just two kindred spirits sharing a connection. However, when Rowan Atkinson encountered Camilla, the situation became awkward. During Prince Charles's 70th birthday celebration, he specially invited the comedy master, hoping to recreate a humorous moment from years past. But Atkinson refused to smile at Camilla. Instead, he stared at her with a stern expression. To be honest, the way Atkinson looked at Camilla was as if he were staring at an ugly toad. After all, anyone who sees Camilla is reminded of Diana's beauty and kindness. Even a comedy genius like Atkinson recognized Diana's wit and charm, qualities that Camilla could never possess. In fact, due to the pressures of royal life, Diana often watched comedies to relax and enjoyed chatting freely with others. However, the various royal protocols restricted her free-spirited nature. No one realized that Queen Elizabeth II's choice not to wear a blue dress at Camilla's wedding came at a painful price, threefold for Camilla. The Queen's outfit color at royal weddings seemed to foreshadow their outcomes. From Princess Margaret to Prince Andrew, all the weddings at which the Queen wore blue eventually ended in divorce, and Diana even lost her life as a result. In contrast, when Princess Anne remarried, the Queen wore green. At William and Kate's wedding, she wore yellow. At Harry's wedding, she wore light green. All of these seemed to bless the marriages with stability. Long before Camilla had noticed this pattern and firmly believed that blue was a cursed color for marriage, she insisted the Queen change out of blue on her wedding day. The Queen obliged by wearing white, but since it's tradition not to wear the same color as the Queen, Camilla was forced to change into a gray dress, a humiliating experience for her. In the second year after the wedding, the palace announced that Camilla had undergone a hysterectomy due to health issues. This effectively severed any direct bloodline connection between Camilla and the Queen. Even after the Queen's passing, Camilla still lives in her shadow. The Queen's $120 million worth of jewelry has already been passed down to Princess Charlotte. The Queen also entrusted Princess Anne with the guardianship of William's family and imposed restrictions on Charles's personal assets to ensure the royal inheritance remained strictly within the family. As a result, Camilla has been left with no access to royal wealth. Did you know Queen Elizabeth never had 5 specific things in her life? First, Queen Elizabeth never wore a brand new pair of shoes. The Queen only wore shoes that someone else had already broken in to ensure her feet wouldn't get blisters. Someone from her staff would walk around in her new shoes until they were perfectly softened. Second, the Queen never peeled a banana the whole way by hand. According to royal etiquette, she had to cut her bananas with a knife and fork. Third, Queen Elizabeth never had a driver's license or a passport, but that didn't mean she couldn't travel or drive. On the contrary, she was free to go wherever she wanted and even enjoyed driving well into her later years. Fun fact, every British driver's license used to be issued in the Queen's name. Fourth, Queen Elizabeth never had a typical romantic date. As a monarch, she always had to maintain a dignified image, so she couldn't experience love the way ordinary women could. So even though she and Prince Philip were together for decades, they rarely showed affection and never really went on traditional dates. Fifth, Queen Elizabeth never actually went to school. She and her sister Margaret were educated at home by private tutors, which honestly was probably better than most schools anyway. But that tradition has changed. Prince William and his kids all go to regular schools, making the royal family seem way more down to earth. No wonder Camilla didn't dare approach the First Lady of South Korea. Standing next to her, she looked like a witch. In 2023, when the South Korean president visited, Camilla wore a dark navy outfit while the 51-year-old First Lady, Kim Ki-on-hee, appeared radiant and much younger, almost like Camilla's granddaughter. The stark contrast shocked everyone present. Camilla clearly realized she couldn't compete with the First Lady's charm, so she immediately sent Kate to greet her instead. Dressed in a striking red outfit, Kate instantly drew everyone's attention, and her confident, graceful demeanor formed a sharp contrast to Camilla's, saving the image of the British royal family. However, at the subsequent banquet, Camilla stunned everyone once again. She didn't allow Kate to wear red and instead chose an elaborate red dress for herself, paired with the most luxurious ruby necklace and crown, in an attempt to display her aristocratic elegance. Yet standing next to the South Korean First Lady once again, she still looked like a clown. When will she realize that true nobility nobility doesn't come from jewels and clothing, but from one's character and dignity. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth II was buried with only 4 precious items? It's hard to imagine that a queen wealthier than most nations chose to be buried with so little, giving up nearly all her worldly possessions before her death. The first item is her Welsh gold wedding ring, which she had worn every day since marrying Prince Philip. Even after death, she never took it off. The ring not only symbolizes their marriage, but also contains a secret message from Prince Philip, known only to the Queen herself. The second item is her favorite pair of pearl earrings, a gift from her grandmother, Queen Mary, symbolizing power and grace. The Queen loved them so much that she gave a similar pair to almost every royal woman. The third treasure is a pearl necklace. Her father, King George VI, gave her 2 pearls every year on her birthday. Over time, these pearls formed a 3-strand necklace that she wore throughout her life. Perhaps each time she looked at it, she thought of her father. Perhaps the most important item was the fourth, her royal scepter. During her funeral, the scepter was symbolically broken and placed on her coffin, a powerful symbol marking the end of her reign. In reality, Queen Elizabeth II owned at least 300 rare pieces of jewelry and could have been buried with a hoard of treasures like Queen Victoria. But she chose not to. She chose to leave most of them to future generations of the royal family, which is truly touching. When Diana visited the Pope, she performed the standard curtsy and wore a black lace veil. When Camilla visited Pope Francis, she not only failed to bow, but also broke the privilege in white and showed no respect. In 1985, when Princess Diana and Prince Charles first met Pope John Paul II during their visit to Rome, Diana observed the proper protocol by kneeling and wearing a black lace veil. Out of respect, she chose a conservative black dress with only simple jewelry, reflecting her understated reverence. Although the Vatican had already relaxed its rule, requiring women to cover their hair in Catholic churches, Diana, herself a Protestant, still donned a short black lace mantilla. Her personal elegance and cross-cultural sensitivity set a diplomatic standard for the royal family. By contrast, in 2017, when Pope Francis received Charles and Camilla, Camilla broke protocol entirely. She wore white, the very color reserved in Vatican tradition to symbolize papal authority, which only 7 designated Catholic queens and princesses in the world are permitted to don before the Pope. Not even the late Queen Elizabeth II ever received this white dress privilege. Yet Camilla deliberately flouted the rule. Moreover, she exposed her décolletage by loosening her scarf, once again breaching the customary modesty expected in papal audiences. She showed no deference. No one realized that Princess Diana made 3 difficult sacrifices to marry into the royal family. Despite having perfect legs, Diana rarely wore high heels for a long time because her height was similar to Charles's. When she wore heels, she appeared taller than her husband, which severely damaged Charles's self-esteem. As a result, she rarely wore high heels and even prepared a pair of low-heeled shoes for her wedding day. She hoped to please Charles in this way, but he never cared about it and only harbored resentment toward Diana. Additionally, to adhere to royal tradition, Diana couldn't keep long hair. In 1984, she briefly had long hair, but the royal family seemed to have a special preference for short hair. At that time, Charles exploded in anger, accusing her of trying to attract public attention. The Queen also did not support Diana and directly arranged for a hairstylist to come and cut her hair, which deeply hurt Diana. The final major sacrifice was that she completely lost her privacy and freedom. Since becoming a royal member, Diana was almost constantly in the spotlight. What is even more heartbreaking is that in the end, she lost her life trying to escape the paparazzi. Did you know that Princess Charlotte is not allowed to have 5 specific things? Despite being one of the richest kids in the world, there are some things she simply can't buy. First, Charlotte is not allowed to have the Monopoly board game. Years ago, Queen Elizabeth thought the game was too aggressive, so it was banned within the royal household. Charlotte probably still can't break that rule today, but it's not a big deal since she likely has access to way more fun games now. Second, Charlotte is not allowed to buy anything made of real fur. This royal rule has been around for at least 700 years, and of course, it supports sustainability. The late Queen only wore faux fur, and Charlotte is clearly expected to follow suit. Third, Princess Charlotte can't wear brightly colored nail polish. The late Queen believed that only nude or pale pink polish was appropriate for ladies. However, Kate Middleton has broken that rule before, so Charlotte might have more options in the future. Fourth, Charlotte is not allowed to wear a tiara until she's married. For most royals, their first time wearing a jeweled crown is on their wedding day. When that time comes, Charlotte is expected to inherit Diana's famous Spencer her tiara. Fifth, Charlotte doesn't get her Christmas gifts on Christmas Day. Instead, royal family members exchange gifts during afternoon tea on Christmas Eve. It's a rather odd tradition, but it's a tradition that has stood the test of time and is not likely to change anytime soon. 26 years after Diana's death, Prince Harry's hatred remains unchanged. In 1967, just 2 weeks before Harry's 13th birthday, Diana died in a car accident. At his mother's funeral, Harry displayed a look of hatred for the first time. In 2005, Charles married Camilla, his mother's closest friend. At that time, 21-year-old Harry gave Camilla a look of disapproval and threw the flower petals in his hand hard at Charles's head. I imagine if Harry had been holding a stone instead of flower petals, Charles might not have lived to see his subsequent coronation. Last year at Charles's coronation, Harry again cast a look of hatred at Camilla. This time he sat silently in the back like a hurt child, holding back tears. Because in his heart, if it weren't for Camilla, it would certainly be his mother Diana up there, waving to the world. Some say Harry is the most abnormal one in the royal family, but now it seems he is actually the most normal one. His mother died young, his father married his mistress, and his brother, in pursuit of power, unconditionally pandered to Charles and Camilla. You can say Harry isn't a dutiful prince, but he is certainly Diana's best son.
What did Princess Diana wear when she passed away? Her last outfit truly breaks the heart. Before Diana was laid to rest, her family chose a black cocktail dress for her, custom made by one of her favorite designers. This simple yet elegant black dress had accompanied Diana through many important moments in her life. Although the public was not able to see Diana's body, her nieces described her as looking just like she was asleep. Despite the obvious scars on her forehead, they mentioned that she appeared peaceful and serene. Her final attire was carefully prepared by her family with the intention of letting her rest in peace while preserving the grace and dignity she carried throughout her life. No matter how difficult Diana's life had been, filled with public scrutiny and personal pain, in her final moments, she maintained her dignity. What is even more heartbreaking is that much of the jewelry Diana wore after her car accident was damaged. The family carefully gathered her treasures, including family photos and personal items related to her children, to accompany her as she rested in the ground.
Who has the more expensive crown? Princess Anne or Camilla? Since becoming queen, Camilla has shown up wearing grand oversized tiaras almost every time. But that doesn't mean she outshines Anne. After all, Princess Anne was Queen Elizabeth's most beloved daughter, and she got several tiaras early on. Before Anne's first wedding, the Queen gave her 3 tiaras, which means they became Anne's private collection, not royal property. The most dazzling one, the Poltimore tiara, is encrusted with 100 diamonds and designed to come apart into 11 brooches. Basically, priceless. On top of that, Queen Elizabeth left a will passing down some of her personal jewelry collection to Anne. That's the kind of treatment only a real princess gets. So what about Camilla? Sure, once she was crowned, Camilla gained access to all the royal jewels, but none of them actually belonged to her. So no matter how expensive her tiaras are, technically they have nothing to do with her. They are not her personal property. The more Camilla lacks something, the more she tries to flaunt it. That's why in just 1 year as queen, Camilla has already worn at least 6 different tiaras, all over the top and dazzling. But what's the point? None of it actually belongs to her, which means once Charles steps down or passes away, Camilla will have to return every single piece of royal jewelry she wore. Honestly, that's kind of satisfying. Meghan touched Harry's shoulder, and he immediately stepped aside for her. Kate gave William a light pat, and he responded by touching her shoulder in return. A prince and a raven can never be husband and wife. Harry is now eager to return to the royal family with their children. Recently, Meghan wanted to have their children appear on a cooking show, but Harry strongly opposed using the children to make money. In fact, Harry has hinted at resisting Meghan during a game. When Meghan touched his arm while he was chatting with someone else, he immediately pulled his arm back. Meghan quickly stepped back, trying to hide her embarrassment. To avoid sharing an umbrella with Meghan, he preferred to get wet. He also kept adjusting his tie to avoid holding her hand. While giving a speech, Meghan tried to make eye contact with him, but he ignored her and finally even gave her a cold look. In contrast, Kate and William always appear like a loving couple. At an awards ceremony, they wore matching suits and gowns, and Kate looked at William with a face full of pride. At a party, they were even caught secretly holding hands. At the Earthshot event, William subtly adjusted Kate's position by touching her shoulder. From their radiant smiles, it was clear they were truly happy. Now people are beginning to believe that Harry and Meghan's marriage is essentially over, that Meghan is using Harry's fame to make money, and that Harry is secretly seeking to rejoin the royal family. Would you support his decision? Do you think Charles would forgive him?
I have been waiting for this day. Camilla thinks she has won. I am Prince William, and today I officially declare war on Camilla. She pushed my mother out, married into the royal family, and even reached into the core of royal power. She controls my father, places her own people, and dares to dream of being buried with the king after death. Dream on. Now my father is ill, and power has finally fallen into my hands. It's time for reckoning. I have united the forces of my aunt, Princess Anne, and under the guise of royal reform, I have kicked out all the people she placed in key positions. Without these eyes and ears, she is isolated in the palace. As a third party who intruded into someone else's marriage, how dare she dream of being buried with my father? I pushed for a new rule. Royal members with serious moral stains shall not be buried with their spouse. Hasn't she always been thinking about entering Westminster Abbey with my father? Now she doesn't even have that qualification. I heard she went crazy, ran to my father to cry and complain. Unfortunately, my father can barely take care of himself now, and I am the one truly in control of the royal family. His silence is his approval. I let trusted media release hints, suggesting that she manipulated the king, drained the royal family, and even implying she is responsible for my father's illness. Public anger was ignited and her reputation was completely ruined. I did all this cleanly. To the outside world, I am doing it for the purity and future of the royal family. And she is nothing but a tumor that must be removed. Camilla, your good days are over.